Hello and welcome to CRA-Africa, your weekly focus on Africa's agriculture. My name is Joe Agayon. This week we focus on seeds. Just which is which? Hybrid or saved seeds from the last season? Well, in a short while we'll be demystifying all the misconceptions about which seeds to plant. But first, a scene setter.
Do we promote hybrid seed or do we promote saved seeds by the farmer? I mean, I promote both schools of thought, and for this reason. We know when it comes to using hybrid seed, hybrid seed, then it reaches a point the vigor goes down. So the more you continue replanting, from the previous season, the production keeps on going down. And that is a creation awareness process. Farmers need to know that every time you keep on, repeating the seed from a previous crop, the production will keep on going down. It's not like the traditional seed that you'll find you're able to more or less maintain the same production, or if it goes down, it's by a very insignificant level.
Hybrid seeds are making the farmers to be more dependent on the sources that these seeds are coming from. So rather than training the farmers to be able to produce seeds, or we bring breeders to be able to take our indigenous crops and work on them to see that it suits climatic factors, we're depending on some varieties that if you plant it, for instance, there are some maize varieties. Yes, they will give you large output at the end of the day. But the following year, if you try to plant that, you are definitely not going to get anything.
Let's now join our eminent panel, hosted as always by the Executive Director of AATF, Dr. Canisius Kanangire.
Smallholder farmers across Africa have over the years depended on seed-saving practice or rely on seed supplied by their communities for planting in the next season. In general, most farmers are thought to use such seeds at least twice before considering purchasing new seeds. This traditional system continues to form the basis of smallholder livelihoods as well as national food security in most countries in the region. On the other hand, hybrids have become the commercial standard for an increasing number of crops because they generally produce higher yields, adapt better to stress, and are often bred to resist pests and diseases. On this episode of CRA-Africa series, we will seek to demystify the misconceptions around hybrid seeds and what options exist for farmers based on their farming goals. You are welcome to CRA-Africa. I am Dr. Canisius Kanangire. I'm Executive Director of AATF, and my guests this week are Dr. Stephen Mugo, a maize breeder and an independent consultant at Center for Resilient Agriculture for Africa, and Duncan Ondu, the Executive Officer at Seed Trade Association of Kenya. You are welcome, sirs.
Thank you.
Thank you. We talk, when we talk of seeds, we talk of two types of system, an informal and a formal system where farmers can get seeds. Can you explain what are those two tracks and the challenges which may be in each one of them?
Thank you very much. My name is Stephen Mugo, and thank you for inviting me to this program. There are two ways in which farmers can get seed in a country or in any region, and these are the formal and the informal system. The formal system is where you have deliberately created the system for variety development. The crops are developed using scientific knowledge by the breeders, and then the seed is surveyed through inspection by the regulatory system in the country. The seed is very well taken care of at production. It's very well inspected. It is processed very well in the factories, and then it is also packaged very well and including treatment like insecticide and fungicides, so that the seed is not damaged during germination. And then this seed is availed through formal systems. The seed stockists from the seed companies, and then it can be availed by government system or even by NGOs to the farmers.
That's the formal
That is
system
the formal
now.
system, yes. The informal system, on the other hand, is where farmers will use their own harvested seed, or they get it from the market. And this seed is usually not treated, and it is availed in most cases from the market without any form of treatment. And the risk is that it will not be as well treated, and it may suffer problems during germination and during the growth of the crops.
Because
that is the informal system.
That is the informal system. Can the two systems coexist in one community, farming community? Can we have the informal and formal systems entertained and sustained in one farming community?
Yeah, I think just to take it a bit further is that it's possible for a farmer to get certified seed, and then after harvesting, they now start planting. They plant season 1, they plant season 2, they also plant season 3. So that could also be another way of informal seed. I remember as we were growing up, our fathers used to do that even before we got to know what formal seed is, because we would plant the first season, the second season, the third season. So yes, it is possible that we could get formal seed, which now transists into the informal seed.
So you can have the two systems coexisting.
Exactly.
But for sure, it is not the best way. We should go to the formal one with all those specifications and attributes.
It's clearly not the best way.
Not the best way.
It is clear that the informal system cannot sustain food production and sustained availing of food to the community.
Because it reduces the potential
it
of the
reduces
seed
the
itself.
potential of the seed.
Now,
and the other idea is also that one is they can reuse the seed that they have obtained from the formal system.
Yes.
But there is also the other issue of the different types of crops, like the chronally propagated crops, the cassavas and the sweet potatoes sometimes. These may coexist with the formal system where you get the hybrids for the grain crops. But this is only up to the level where the country has developed the formal system. Because clearly the formal system will be able to produce adequate amount of seed, of seed, which then will also translate into adequate amount of food available in the country.
Now, I'm curious to understand how widespread is this informal system? How widespread is the practice of using safe seeds, what you produce on your shamba, on your piece of land, and then reuse it a number of times? How widespread is that practice on the African continent?
Yeah, the only contradiction and irony is that because we are living in a society that allows the use of choices by farmers, we'll find that most governments will allow both systems to coexist. Because government normally says they're there for everybody. So we have the formal system and the informal system. If I draw, for example, from Kenya, the 2010 National Seed Policy actually recognizes both systems, both the formal system and the informal system. But back again to your question, Kenya talks about research findings which have not been corroborated for a long time. 80% of seed in Kenya is informal, 80%, and then 20% is formal. I was looking at some studies done by one of the think tanks in Africa. They're talking about countries like Zimbabwe, where they have about 70% formal seed and then 20% informal seed, especially for maize.
That's very good.
Yeah, when you look at countries like Mali, they have about 30% when you talk about legumes. When you look at countries like Tanzania, Uganda, we have about 54% in terms of maize. That's formal seed. So broadly, we have different scenarios depending on the country, because each country seems to allow different actors, you know, to operate.
I think I will come back to that, to deep dive into those differences.
Yes.
What makes it so different that one country on the same continent is having a formal system at 70% and another at like 20%, for example? Why is it? Is it the understanding?
Yes, I think what Duncan says about Kenya is really the general about Africa. About 80% is informal.
Informal.
And why is this? It is because of the development of the seed system in particular countries. The reason why it is so is that several reasons. One of them is that the farmers may not know the advantage of the formal system and where they can get the seed from that system. The other one is that they cannot access it even when they want it, because the seed system in the various countries is not as well developed. And the other one is that there may be no actors, there may be no investment that has been done to deliberately increase the level of the formal system.
I think it will be very important to come back to that system, but before we go to that, so from what you are saying, and from where we started, there are concerns that these informal seeds, these recycled seeds,
Yes.
could be one of the factors which lead to a reduced level of productivity at the farming level. At what level, what could be the magnitude of that kind of loss in the potential of the seed, which translates in lower yield and productivity at the farmer's level? Could you elaborate on what we lose?
Yeah, because we have been following that discussion, especially trying to provide a rationale. In fact, there's a potential loss of between 30 to 40% yield when you use informal seed. So one can really see that you cannot talk about food self-sufficiency when you talk about informal seed, because of the reduction in terms of output. So yes, it's very, very significant. And I think just like we said, when you talk about the formal seed, you talk about resistance to pests and diseases, for example. So when you have informal seed and there are pests which come, you can imagine what is likely to happen.
Vulnerable.
Yeah, almost sometimes up to 80% crop loss can be there out of use of informal seed. Yes.
So that is a big loss, 30 to 40%,
Yes.
and then that vulnerability, which makes agriculture at the end of the day a very risky business.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other issue is the formal seed, you know, through breeding and all that, it is also adaptable to climate change, for example. Right now, you cannot predict how the weather will be tomorrow. You plant today, it doesn't rain. So you find that informal seed is also susceptible to weather vagaries, you know, climate which you can't predict. But the formal seed system, there are actually varieties which have been bred, which are short maturing, maybe 4 to 5 months, especially in maize. And this is now what is making other communities to be able to have a harvest, especially when we have challenges to do with climate change. So overall, you can see formal seed system is overall better.
From what we have said.
So the formal system allows the system to access new genetics, improved varieties, which will have the traits that really the farmers need.
Yes.
That drought tolerance, that disease resistance, that pest resistance, while the informal system will not allow that.
Yeah, but from what we said in this discussion, first you have informal, and those are raw seed that you get, you plant.
Yes.
From the formal system, you get seeds which have been processed, protected against many hazards, and then you can use them. So, and they can be shielded against a number of those fungi or other pests. I think that is the difference between the two systems. And then the formal system, you will get it through a seed system which is elaborate. I think this is what at the end becomes what we call also a certified seeds,
Exactly.
unlike the other one which are not certified.
Exactly.
And I think that is a big difference. And I hope that our farmers are getting the difference between the seed they obtain from the informal and that they get from the formal system, which is very well packaged, certified, and very well protected. Let's take a break. And when we come, we go now to the difference between the ordinary one, though it can be processed, and the hybrid, which is another animal that the farmers need to domesticate. Welcome back to CRA-Africa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are talking of seeds. And outside there, experts advise that we should go to hybrid seeds. What is hybrid seeds? What are the characteristics that we have in a hybrid seed? What is the benefit we would have in uptaking the benefit seed, using the hybrid seeds rather than using the ordinary one?
Yeah, thank you very much. A hybrid, by definition, is a cross between two plants of the same type. And the reason why it is used is because when you cross those two plants that have different characteristics, but the scientists several years ago, actually in the 1950s, they found out that when you cross those two different types, the product from that, which is now the hybrid seed that is available to the farmer, will do better than either of the parents. And that characteristic is called the hybrid vigor. Scientists will use a bigger term, but that is what it means, which means that it will produce better than the parents. And the way that those two parents are selected, the scientists will do it in a scientific way. It's a huge, it requires good skills in science to be able to identify those and to test very many and then single out which are those two best. So that then the hybrid that comes from there is the best that will be able to produce the way it was intended to. Because by definition, the hybrid will produce more in terms of yield. It will resist the diseases the way it is done. It is meant to. It will resist the pest if that is what it is meant to be. And then it can also be adapted to the area where the farmers experience different problems in production. So it should be something that will help the farmer more than if they planted the parents alone, or if they used the seed that they traditionally grew.
Yeah, I think that is a very important thing. So in practice, it means you look for the vigor, and you are also tracing some of the traits which could adapt the plant to the conditions, agroecological zone. And here we could, now that climate change is one of the key challenges that we face, there could be some adaptation to the climate issues. For example, resistance to drought, right?
Yes.
So which could make it possible for the farmer to get more. Now, if the hybrids present so many benefits, it should be something that people go for. What is the level of adoption of hybrid on the African continent? And when you talk, I discuss with people out there, and I know it is relatively low. Why is it so low compared to the normal expectation of us who are just in other areas of scientific barriers, and saying, no, this is very good, it should be widespread, but now what is the extent of use of hybrid and why is it relatively low?
Okay, thank you. I think before I go into that, one of the ways by which we normally explain the issue of hybrid, especially to our communities in the rural areas, is we ask them, are they aware that if they have chicken, for example, you have the cock and the cockerel, and then it lays eggs and then it has the chicks. Are they aware that if you have inbreeding, because there reaches a point where you have to take a cock out, kill it, and then bring another one from outside? What Dr. Stephen was trying to talk about in terms of analogy, different parents. Are they aware that if they continue that, then they will be having what is called inbreeding, and then the poultry that finally comes out is weak, is not strong, cannot lay eggs, cannot have in terms of meat. So that's the analogy, simply put, between hybrid and the informal seed sector. But back again to your question, just like Dr. Stephen has said, this process takes time, is expensive. By the time you finish this whole cycle, you find that you need to recoup the investment you have made. So naturally, it is more expensive than this informal seed system. So if you have farmers, especially who want to just do basic subsistence, normally they argue that this is expensive, and because I'm also doing it just for subsistence, why do I need to pay more? And yet this is only going to be for use at the household level. If they want to go commercial, then some of them, of course, will now see the value of buying the hybrid one, because comparatively it is expensive, but it has twin advantages. So the issue of cost is normally one that becomes a challenge, especially to farmers.
There are two things which are very, very important to be clarified. The first one is it is complex to come to the hybrid seeds.
Exactly.
So it is not something which a farmer can just undertake. That is one.
Yes.
It is a long process. So it is a bit expensive.
Yes.
So that is another thing.
Yes.
And yet, we are saying because it can't be produced on farm, the farmer needs to buy hybrid seeds every new season.
Exactly.
Now, my question, is it worth it for a farmer to buy the seeds, the hybrid seeds? Does he have a chance to get back the money and get benefits? Because if it is, I think it could be advisable to go the other direction if he can benefit more. So I don't understand exactly that what we are advising.
I think the whole idea, the reason why the world went to hybrids, and this happened, I think the first hybrids were in maize in the USA in the 1950s, it's because of the advantage that the hybrid will, in general, yield much more than 40%
Yes, 40%.
of the alternative of the conventional one.
Exactly.
And so, however much hybrids cost, and there have been very many studies that have been done in Africa, in Asia, and other places, the hybrid seed will always pay more than when you use the alternative, the conventional seed. And I think that is the whole idea, that food production, and it is believed very, very clearly that today the world is able to sustain the kind of population that we have because of the hybrid technology. Being in maize, that is the most widespread. It has been done in vegetables. It's been done even in small grain crops, sorghums and millets and others. It's because of that specific advantage of the hybrid. That here is a conventional, here is a hybrid. Even if you buy the seed every season, the farmer is better off than buying the cheaper seed or even recycling the seed which he produced, which will not give him as much.
I think that is the message that the answer I wanted to have. Duncan said that what we lose when we use saved seeds is between 30 and 40%.
Exactly.
Now, he says you need to buy hybrid seed every season.
Yes.
And my question was, is it profitable? And Stephen here has said, whatever can be the price of the hybrid, it will still produce much more, and economically it will be more profitable because of that difference in the yield. I think what we need is to put some figures in simple ways so that the farmer can be communicated this. I don't know how much of that information is conveyed in a proper way to the farmers, because if they knew that they will gain much more by using the hybrid and buying it every season, I think they would adopt it, right?
Yes, they would. It takes time because, like, I think we're all aware that issues of bookkeeping, for example, those who have been in development for a long time, we've struggled to tell farmers, for example, the value of bookkeeping, because if you don't keep books, you can't even know whether you are making profit or loss. And even as we speak now, although now we are talking about commercialization of agriculture, a lot of farmers still will not keep books and keep records, even though they've been told the value. So back to the question. Farmers would need to make a choice because they already have been given information through field days, for example, through demonstration, through field days.
Field days.
Exactly, field days, through fairs, through demonstrations on the value of having certified seed, of having a value of having hybrids, especially in this particular discussion, and what you're able to get in terms of harvest. But like we keep saying, it's about choice. So a farmer is either aware or not. For those who are aware, they still want to do informal seed. But like I've said, if you're doing it for home use is different from when you're doing it for commercial production. Those who are doing it for commercial production are looking at how much have I invested in terms of input, and how much am I likely to get in terms of harvest. Those ones, the message is very, very clear.
So adoption of this technology depend on the size of the farming.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that because medium and big size farmers have also the knowledge, is access to technology.
Exactly.
And different technology, including information technologies, and can make decisions based on those evidences.
Exactly.
And the smallholder farmer doesn't have the same facilities. I think that is probably where the big difference is. And we know that unless we convey properly that message to the smallholder farmer, we may not transform the agricultural sector in Africa, because they constitute a huge proportion of the farming population on African continent.
And I think that is where the issue is, that Africa, the majority of the farmers are smallholders. So they need to understand what is needed, and they need to know why they should do what will make them to produce more.
Exactly.
And the issue is that if you take hybrid, you buy the hybrid seed, and you plant it this season, and then you recycle it. So you harvest the seed and you recycle it. By design of the hybrid, and because it is given that the hybrid vigor by the genetic makeup. When you grow it, it is the way that Duncan explained about the chicken. So you are continuing to inbreed. If you inbreed a hybrid, this season, the first season, you are going to lose more than 50% of the potential yield that you would have gotten if you planted a new seed of hybrid.
Okay.
If you do it in the other crops, maybe it will be less, but for hybrid, you lose more. And that is why it is advisable and economical to go and buy new seed of the same variety, of the next season. And that way, the farmer also has advantage both by benefiting from that hybrid, and also when you make a habit of bringing in new seed, you also have a higher probability of introducing new genetics, a new variety, which has new characteristics, which is better than the previous one. Yes.
And it is also good for the soil, because the soil also gets to regenerate. Like you're saying, when you bring new traits, the soil gets to regenerate, as opposed to when you also plant the same farmer-saved seed. So it has a lot of twin benefits.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So the use of hybrids not only gives you more benefit in terms of yield and the financial benefit that you can get from it. But also it gives you that shield against some of the challenges like drought, like pests and diseases. That is one. But also it helps you maintain the properties of your soil. Now, let's take a break. And when we come, we look at that piece of information that needs to go down there and change the mindset of the smallholder farmers so that they can benefit from the use of hybrid. Welcome back to CRA-Africa.
Thank you.
Yeah, the discussion is very good around and very useful around hybrid and the benefit we have. But I have a question of curiosity and clarification. We talk of hybrid here, which take a number of processes to get there. How is it different from GMO?
Yes, genetically modified crops is just one way of inserting a characteristic that is needed, but it is not there in the conventional germplasm. So this is just one way of getting, like maize, if it was not resistant to the pest and it doesn't have the native genetics for resistant to that pest, to be introduced. Once that is done, then it can be developed as a hybrid or in any other type of variety. And therefore, hybrid itself is a procedure that ensures that the farmers get the best, the most high yielding, the most best performing, and this could be having the characteristics that was inserted there to make the genetically modified, or it can be for any trait that is for climate adaptation, or it is for resistance to any other pest, and that one which will benefit farmers in the way that they produce.
So a variety can be obtained
by using the genetically modification or using the conventional, and the hybrid is just the way that the seed will be availed to the farmers.
Yes. So I think that clarifies the two. A hybrid can be just obtained through conventional way, and a GMO is that genetic engineering, inserting a trait that you need, and then the multiplication can be done by hybridization, as you say.
Yes.
I think
so in
the two
short,
are quite different.
A hybrid can be GMO or not
GMO.
or conventional.
That is what we need to clarify to the farmers, because the two are different terms and they need to be understood very clearly. Now, let's come back to what you said earlier to be one of the weakness in the availability of seeds. You said our seed system is not strong enough. What should be a seed system that is effective, that is working properly?
Yeah, a seed system that is effective, now, the first of the things we need to look at is to have quality assurance. And quality assurance basically means, like we said initially, the process through which this particular seed is being developed should be such that it meets minimum threshold that has been set by different countries. So you find there is inspection, then there is the packaging, then there is the selling, and when you talk about selling, we also sell it through agro-dealers who have been certified, who have a license, because studies have shown that sometimes seed which is meant to have the correct vigor is exposed maybe to sunlight, the way it is being transported. So yes, you can buy certified seed, but when you plant it, that becomes a challenge. So quality assurance is very important.
It's very important.
The next one is having targets in the seed system. So a country should be able to know what is the target that we have vis-a-vis the annual consumption by a country. So once you have those targets, then you have benchmarking in such a way that each particular actor can be able to make this happen, whether it's government, whether it's private sector, NGOs like we mentioned. So quality assurance, target, and then the other one.
The target is in terms of quantities
exactly,
that
quantities.
are produced so that
yes.
all the demand can be satisfied.
Excellent,
yes.
Yeah. Then the other one is, like we've seen now lately, issues of availability of land. Sometimes we don't look at it very critically, but we know that if you don't have land which can allow for what is called isolation, distance, and all that, that becomes a challenge. It's something that has not been discussed properly very well, but we are beginning to realize that land availability becomes a concern. Like we saw most recently, the government talked about land which has been unutilized to be turned back for purposes of crop production. So those are some of the things. Then also things to do with personnel, for example, and training. We need to have requisite personnel who have been trained, who can match the available work. And then also lastly, like for example, in countries in Africa, extension work is also very critical in terms of the
to convey that knowledge,
exactly.
that information that is needed.
Exactly.
I think it is very good to understand the process through which we go to have really those certified seeds.
So in other words,
yes?
this requires the country to make a deliberate effort to have the formal working seed system. The government has to be there to put in the structures for inspection, what you call the regulation. The private sector has to be there, seed companies that will produce the seed, invest their money to produce the seed. The government, again, has also to be there to support the research and the development institution that will develop the seed and the varieties that are available. Even the private sector, the public sector, including NGOs and the bodies like ATF, will have to be there to ensure that the farmers are reached with the proper information, and that all that is needed, the extension system is there. So it has to be a really concerted effort. There is
a need of a concerted effort and many players who will work in a coordinated manner.
Exactly.
Coming from the researchers, going through the public, government services, and then involving the private sector and others so that they can produce enough and reach the target. And then there is a distribution system which need to be in place, and there is need of extension services to create awareness, and then accessibility, and then it goes to the farmers. And I will add another thing, stewardship, even when the farmer is using it, so that the farmer uses it properly. So there is a deliberate effort, a dedicated, really a will from the policymakers to say, we want to reach food security, nutrition security. This is what it takes, and then they put the machinery it needs in motion. Tell me, how do we create the awareness? Yeah, you talked about, I understand you talked about extension, but how do we create really the awareness that the farmer need to make that shift from the use of grain, actually it is grain, not even seeds, and start now using the seed, buying it from that system we have just talked about?
Okay. We always believe that seeing is believing.
Seeing is
believing. One of the things that we are working on, and of course other institutions are working on, is having farmer field day. If you have field days, the farmers will come and then they will see this is the variety which was planted. Of course, they'll see the crops at different stages, sometimes at harvest, sometimes at maturity. So they will see in this size of land, these are the quantities which were planted, these are the inputs which were there, this is the yield which we have. So we've seen through field days, farmers, when they go back, they say, truly we can see the system.
There is benefit to use that.
So there is field day. Then there are discussions like now the ones we are having, which are going to be aired at different fora, so that also creates awareness. I've also seen the use of local language or local dialect to try and even have skits to have demonstrations as way of explaining. In some cases, I've also seen this now going even to schools. Like, for example, in Kenya, we now have the 4K clubs, which is starting to train children in school the issue of agriculture. So these are mechanisms against which we can be able to create awareness. The other one is having simple information, packaged in such a way that a farmer can be able to read in their language, very simplified without any complicated jargon. Then I've also seen we have in Kenya 2 newspapers that come on Saturdays, which normally has a pull-out. That is also another way of creating awareness. So awareness avenues are quite many. And for farmers who have been reached by these levels of awareness, they come back and testify, and even now become even champions and even role models in the communities where they are.
There are also some other who have done it, especially having the village-based advisor system. So you have people that are trained in the community and they work with the farmers to provide that extension service. Others who have used what they call the farmer hubs. So you have units of farmers who are even connected with today's digital system. You can collect information and pass on information. So different things. But I think the bottom line is that it has to be deliberate. Somebody has to do it. Somebody has to design it. Farmer associations have to get, I think, what you do, the training of the trainers. So you get individuals who are trained and they have specific connections and the networking among the community.
Yeah, we need to communicate adequately and taking really the characteristics of the people we are talking to. And some of those demonstrations are much better, eloquent. To tell them this is better than that. They will see, and once they have seen, then they can adopt it. But also nurturing the farmers of tomorrow by starting from down there to the school. I think it is a brilliant idea. Now, coming to the certified seeds, I hear that outside there you have so many counterfeits, and that there are crooks who come with different types of products and selling them with a very nice labels of seeds, certified seed for this. I heard that there was even one in other inputs who was selling sands and calling it fertilizer. Now, on the seed side, how does a farmer distinguish a counterfeit to a real certified, genuinely certified seed? Do you have some tips to share with them?
Yes, I think this is where our association has been able to take a lead role. In fact, we have been a lead, especially in Africa in this, including now COMESA. What we have done is we worked with KEFIS, the regulatory authority, in partnership with the ministry and a solution provider called Pedigree, and we've come up with a system where every seed pack has a label. So when the farmer buys, the farmer scratches and then sends the digits to a number 1393, that is for Kenya, 1393. Then when you send it, it gives you feedback that this particular seed pack that you have has certified seed. Certified seed.
Okay.
Now, this particular labeling is inputted into a system which is authenticated so that you cannot be able to fake it. If you just have what is called a paper package, when you scratch it, of course, you not get the answer. So that is how we've worked along to make sure that counterfeit seed has been managed. A recent study has actually shown that the confidence level, especially in Kenya, has risen up to 85%. So we have comparatively over time very few counterfeit seeds.
That is
especially because of the use of this particular sticker label.
Scratch, get a number, send it to a specified number from your phone, and you will get a certification that the package you have is genuine or not.
Yes. The last thing I want to add is that people have been asking that is it that you must have an Android phone? No. You can have even the very basic phone, handset, very basic. And then the costing has also been taken care of, because sometimes farmers fear that when you scratch, I'm going to pay. So when you scratch and send, it is free.
You pay nothing.
Because it has been catered for.
Fantastic. That is very good information to give. That applies to Kenya and probably to other countries also.
Yes.
That is very good. So I think it was very informative. We need to reach food security. And one of the ways is to increase productivity at the farmers level. And we know that in Africa, most of the farmers are smallholder farmers, and they don't have equal access to information and other tools. But among the inputs which will enable the farmer to increase productivity are seed, and good seed for that matter. So using the grain for replanting in the next season reduces the possibility of the farmer to get the right yield he should or she should have at that season. So there is a loss of between 30 and 40%. And this is immense. So the way to go to the right direction is to use certified seeds. And in this case, hybrids, which have put together a number of traits and vigor which will protect the farmer against issues like pests, like insect, like drought, etc., and adapt better to the agroecological zone. And seed systems are being strengthened in Africa, and feed certification is being also very well organized, enabling the farmer to avoid falling in the hand of crooks by having a certified, a code. You scratch and you get the certification that the seed is really the genuine one. To change the mindset of the farmers, we need to improve our communication to them. And one of the ways is to make demonstration, to show here you have the grains replanted, and here you have planted the seeds which were certified, protected, and then they will see the difference and then use other means, and we have many of them. And I thank you, Duncan, for having come with all those layers. Stephen, for those different information you gave about the hybrid and also about the system, the seed system, and how it can be strengthened. I thank you very much. Farmers, I think it is time that we take the right decision. Move from the use of grains, which are very low, which will give you very low potential, to the certified seeds, which, even if you pay some money, will give you a higher yield, which will enable you to recoup that money and make benefit. Thank you, viewers, for watching us, for following us on this discussion. Please spread the mindset so that we can reach quickly the food security and nutrition security on the African continent. I will welcome you to the next CRA-Africa, but for now, thank you and bye-bye.
Now you know, not every seed is worth replanting. It's all about a farmer's farming goals. Well, thank you very much for watching CRA-Africa for the week. Do not forget to join us next week at a time like now. My name is Joe Agayo.